Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Golden Sheltie podcast. I'm Natalie.
And I'm Dakota, and today is going to be a fun episode. Today we're talking about the stigma around psychiatric service dogs.
Mhm. And this is going to be a really heavy, mental health topic today. I'm going to kind of go into deep detail or somewhat deep detail, about my mental health issues, my psychiatric disability. So it's going to be a really heavy topic. Just kind of a warning if maybe this isn't the episode for you. That's okay. You can support us in so many other ways. So if you don't feel
Yeah.
like this is the episode for you, again, that's okay. We don't mind. Um,
hmm
but if you've ever wondered what makes an emotional support dog and a psychiatric service dog different, this is the episode for you because we're gonna dive deep into all of that stuff.
Yes. And, it's a really important conversation because unfortunately, so many people confuse the two. And that ends up affecting a lot of service dog handlers, whether they have a psychiatric service dog or, any other type of service dog.
Hmm.
I feel like we all get, I guess, backlash and all get some kind of issue or struggles from
Hmm.
people not or from people confusing the two.
I agree. Yeah. And it causes people with invisible disabilities to made feel like they're less than, and that
Yeah.
sucks.
And
Because
it's so
that's not the
unfortunate.
case.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Hmm.
Um, so let's start off with defining emotional support animal. So what is an emotional support animal? Basically, they're a comfort animal. Their presence brings their handler comfort, and there's no special training. They
Hmm.
have legal housing rights with the FHA, which is the Fair Housing Act. And basically, it protects them in non pet friendly housing apartments. So if you live in an apartment that doesn't allow pets or doesn't allow pets over 30 pounds or whatever, you can legally have your pet there as long as you have a note from a mental health professional or a medical professional. I don't believe it matters between the two, but I think it's mental health professional. And you give that to your landlord or to the office of your complex or whatever, and they shouldn't charge you a fee, and you are able to have your pet with you
Hmm.
in your apartments.
Hmm. And I think that's where it kind of gets a little murky, is because the
Yes.
doctor's saying you need an ESA, but people often will take it as, oh, this means he's a service dog. I can go anywhere I want
hmm
with him. And that's
Yeah.
where the misconception happens and where
hmm
ESAs kind of make it a little difficult for service dog handlers in the future. And not because, maybe they don't know, maybe they don't understand, and there's not a lot of education about
No.
service dogs, ESAs, therapy dogs, like in general, like people all think they're the
Yeah.
same type of dogs. Um,
Unfortunately, it's really hard to find the FHA. Sorry, I always mix that up with my words,
it's
but
okay.
it's really hard to find the FHA's policy on emotional support animals and all of that. And apartment complexes aren't going to have that ready and available for you because they want the pet fee, they want the money. And it's unfortunate because, when you type in emotional support animal, what's the first thing that comes up is a registry or a certification. And, those are scams. They're not going to get you to be able to live in your apartment. They're not legal. They're not legally recognized. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
lots of misinformation about those things. And so we want to define um we want to like kind of break down what the differences is. So the definition of a psychiatric service dogs is that they are fully trained service dogs that perform specific tasks.
Yeah.
And it's like tasks that are needed to interrupt panic attacks, grounding during disassociation, guiding a handler. I'm going to say leading a handler to safety because guide work is a little bit different. But leading a handler to safety, which is a lot
Mm,
of things that Pluto does for me. Um, they are fully protected by the ADA, which means that we're anywhere where the public is allowed, they are allowed to come with you. And regardless of its a mobility guide dog or someone that looks disabled because a lot of people go based on looks. It doesn't matter because invisible disabilities are real.
Absolutely. And, psychiatric disabilities, like you said, they're just as valid as physical disabilities. And um, psychiatric service dogs have full ADA protection. A lot of
Hmm.
people don't think they have ADA protection, which is, again, it's just unfortunate how
Yeah.
stigmatized and how biased a lot of people can be with
Hmm.
psychiatric service dogs just for the name of psychiatric. It's
Yep.
important to remember that the ADA says that service animals are for disabilities, and psychiatric disabilities are very much disabilities, and a lot of them are
Yes.
disabling.
Yeah, they are. And now we get into the portion where we're going to be breaking those down. And we're going to be specifically talking about anxiety and depression because those are the things that I suffer from. There are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of psychiatric disabilities, but I'm just going to get into those because I can give my personal experiences and my light just died. But I can
Oh
give my
no.
personal, it's okay. I can give my personal experiences and all that stuff. Um, so anxiety versus, we're gonna go there first. Anxiety versus debilitating anxiety. Um, so anxiety is common and can be very manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Debilitating anxiety is frequent, it's severe, and it stops your daily function. So there's so many levels of anxiety. And when I got tested for anxiety, and I have what is GED or GAD. Um,
General anxiety disorder.
yeah, so when I got that, I was tested. The scale that I was tested on was out of 20, and I got a 17 out of 20, which is
Wow.
really high,
Yeah.
which means that my anxiety does prevent me from doing certain things. Um, which is why it's diagnosed as a disability because it is debilitating. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Depression
Oh,
versus,
before we jump into depression, I just want to say,
yeah.
because I do have anxiety too. I have social anxiety.
Hmm.
So, before I got fidget and stuff, it really, really impacted my life. Fidget definitely brought me out of my shell as a service
That's so
dog, and
good.
which is again, that's why it's good for a lot of people with
Yeah.
psychiatric disabilities. They do get out of their shells and stuff. But there's times where I was in school and we were in high school during COVID and stuff, so we had to go on Zoom calls and stuff. I legitimately couldn't do it. I was one of those kids that needed to have everything done. I needed to have an A. I needed to be good in school and all that. But because of the Zoom call, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't put my voice on a Zoom. I couldn't go
Oh,
on as like I couldn't show my face on a Zoom, which right now that's a big leap for me.
yeah. I'm so happy that you can do it now.
But I couldn't do any of that, and I was just it wasn't because I didn't want to. It was just the anxiety of it, and it just wouldn't let me. Like I would sit there with my finger on the button, and I just couldn't do it. Even like
Yeah.
this past week, calling people, and I have to call people for brands and stuff, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't. There was one
Hmm.
person where it was like they wanted me to call them, and I couldn't bring myself to call them, so I kind of just didn't do it.
Yeah.
But that's debilitating when you're not able to do things, and it's like really impacting your life because yeah, that did impact my school career. That did impact
Hmm.
a brand deal that
Hmm.
I could have had, which
Yeah,
is
and
sucks.
it's those things where like, oh, like sometimes you don't like I think what people don't understand is like sometimes you like general people want to like not do a task or whatnot. And it's
Mhm.
for people that have anxiety, it's you want to do the task. You just can't do the task. Like there's
Yeah.
too much going on in your brain that's preventing you from doing that task. So that's kind of what it means when we talk about like daily function and where it stops your daily function. Um, but moving on to depression. So depression versus debilitating depression. I think this is the one where I'm really going to get into because this is like my main one. Um,
Mhm.
so depression is, sadness, low energy, bad weeks. Debilitating depression is long-term, medically recognized, disrupts life. You can't get out of bed, can't go to work, etc. Um, That's what really happened to me. Again, I got tested for depression and I was actually a 19 out of 20 when it came to depression, which is why I started my medication. I didn't know how bad it was. And, I knew I had depression. I just didn't know how bad the level was until I decided that I really wanted to get on medication. Um, and it really is like I can't physically get myself out of bed. Like no matter if I'm starving, no matter if I have to go to the bathroom, no matter what it is, I just my body says no. And it's almost like you're glued to whatever surface you're on and you cannot, even if you try, it's almost like a magnet. Like even if when you try to separate these magnets, it's hard to separate them. And it was really hard for me to do that. I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't go to the grocery store by myself. I wouldn't even eat because I didn't want to get out of my house and go buy some food for myself to eat. So that's where it becomes really debilitating, where I'm not even going to the bathroom, drinking my water, going to feed myself and take care of myself, um, and it took a huge toll on me. And, I'm so glad that I have Pluto. I'm so glad that I'm on medication now because I've been feeling a lot better and
I'm
it's
glad, yeah.
great. Yeah, and if people are struggling with depression, like it's really hard to, you know, go through it by yourself. And like one of the things that I realized was my thought process is not normal. But I thought and I think it's normal because that's what I deal with every single day. And like, I've talked about a little bit about it before where, I've never had like suicidal thoughts of like hurting myself or anything. Um, but I've had a lot of thoughts of running away, or disappearing, and those are somewhat like gateways to suicidal thoughts, and I never really processed that. So when I first told someone about it, which was my husband, he freaked out naturally because if you don't have those thoughts in your head or it's like you don't live with that, you don't understand that that's a normal thought, and it's I laugh because I'm nervous about saying that, but
Uh,
yeah, it's like it shouldn't be a normal thought and it's not normal, but that's when I first realized like, oh, like this is not normal. Like I shouldn't be thinking these things, like I couldn't go to a store without thinking I was being followed. I couldn't go without thinking that someone was going to kidnap me and do God knows what with me. I couldn't be around men. I think I told the story. I don't remember. Went to a Nike store and a male employee came up to me and asked me if I needed help. I had anxiety because I couldn't hear him very well. And then all my stuff kicked in because I was like freaking out, like, oh my God, this guy's gonna do something to me, but he's just an employee. Like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't anything, it was just my mind doing these things. But
yeah, your
it's
mind was
those,
racing.
yeah, it's that debilitating thing where I can't go to these places, I can't do these things because my body won't let me. And that's where, I mean, I'm talking about anxiety and depression here, but that's where, having anxiety and depression versus having debilitating anxiety and depression really differentiates because I would I would pretend I got into a car accident. I would pretend that I had food poisoning. I would pretend maybe if my dogs were sick. I would pretend all of these things so I wouldn't go to work. So I wouldn't get out of bed. So I wouldn't have to deal with anything ever. And anytime the pressure, I had too much pressure or too many things on my plate or too much stress, it's back into my what we call the depression hole, where you're just in bed. You let your room become what we call a depression room, where everything's just a mess and trash. And it sucks because like you don't want to live like that, but you can't help it. And I think that's what a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand. Like, an ESA isn't trained to stop you from doing these things, you know? Pluto's trained to like feel that I have anxiety, and then he does his job, whereas he does my laps, he does grounding, which is licking. So he licks me, licks my face. If I'm dissociating, if I'm picking at my face, so he helps me a lot because he gets me out of those moods and he gets me up. And that's the
Hmm.
thing, if I didn't have Pluto, I mean, my old girl can sleep all day. Like she will not get up and do anything because she's old, But Pluto's young and he gets me up and he's like, "Hey, it's time for to feed me. It's time to go outside. It's time for me to go to the bathroom. It's time for me to do
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z, you know? Um, and so he helps me get through those things whereas, before I wouldn't be able to. And now with him and my medication, I am feeling a whole lot better. And I'm able to, I mean, Dakota knows I've gone through a lot of like stress the past few weeks, and I've still been somewhat like bubbly and my normal self and not like going into my depression hole and not I've been really trying to stay super positive and it's really helped. So it's a huge change to have a service dog in general, because someone like me that has anxiety and depression, it just helps regulate you in a way that not even um,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
consistent.
and it's consistent, and he loves to do his job. He loves to make me feel good. He loves to do all those things that um I need him to do and I need him to be. And it's the impact and the duration that these debilitating disabilities have on you that makes it different from just having regular anxiety or depression. Um, and before I got on medication, I was like really bad for like 3, 4 months. And I couldn't get into a routine. I couldn't get into a rhythm. I couldn't do it. And then
Mhm.
the hard part is that you want to do it and then you beat yourself up about it because then you don't do it.
And then
Um,
you have anxiety about it
then you
too, and
have, yeah, and then you just feel worse and worse and worse. And
it's a
one
whole
thing,
cycle.
and one thing that last thing I'll touch upon and we can move forward with it, but um I would beat myself up every time I would take a shower. I would be in the shower and I would say, "You didn't do this, 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 and this. All you did was lay down and do nothing." Like, like all the bad thoughts came. And then it just goes to another version of you not taking care of yourself, which is you don't take a shower, you don't clean yourself, you don't brush your hair, you don't take care of yourself in general. And that's what I did because I didn't want to hear those freaking voices in my head telling me that I'm not good enough, that I didn't do what I needed to do, and that like basically like I'm a loser and like I'm like this many years old and I can't get my together. I have to cut that out, but like I can't get my stuff together and like all these things like would come up. So then like I wouldn't want to take a shower because that's when I was like the meanest to myself. And
Mhm.
that was really hard. My husband like even like told me like I can tell like there's stuff going on with you. Like he sees it more clearly now, than he did before, just because Pluto really points out a lot of the silent signs that I've had. So he like knows now. Um, but it's hard. So if you're struggling and you're going through that, just know like you're not the only one. And it's hard to sometimes talk about these things with people that have never gone through it or don't feel it or don't understand it because they could think that maybe you do want to hurt yourself. And there is a very fine line between, yes, you want to hurt yourself and not hurt yourself and da 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 da. But finding someone to talk to that's like not family, that's not, related to you or friends with you, someone just outside of that bubble that, like, like a therapist is always number one that I recommend. A
Yeah.
psychiatrist is a good one because they can help you like, see different things and understand different things and help you get through it. And if you feel like maybe you've tried that and it doesn't work, maybe you talk about some medication, maybe you talk about different types of things and kind of going from there. But there's a lot of help, a lot of resources, a lot of things that can get you to feel better and act better. And I will be honest, like I'm 31 and I just started my medication. I've officially now with my right dosage, I've been on it for 3 months now, and I feel a huge change on these 3 months, because all these things that would get me into my depression hole, that would make me think negative things, it's a lot easier to like shut up the voices than it was before because those voices can be so terrible and so difficult to get rid of. But I'm finally like able to like medications like rewiring my brain to like be more positive and like not think about these things. And that's not the only thing that's going to help. You have to still go to therapy. You have to, do your things and you have to work with your medication to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
That was a
I'm
lot.
really glad you're doing better.
Thank you so much. That was a lot.
Yeah. Aw.
Just trying to be vulnerable because I know there's a lot of people out there that, definitely are going through this and like need that help. And like I mentioned before, I've had these feelings and, now I know older that, both of my parents had depression and my sister has depression and like not being able to talk about it is kind of
It's
hard.
tough.
So
Yeah.
yeah, because I could have had all of this fixed earlier. Here he is
Hi,
because he
Pluto.
feels he feels all my anxiety.
Like, don't worry, I got you.
Yeah, he's like, I'm here, mom, don't worry. But yeah, so I hope this helps and I hope that you can find someone that can, help you and make you feel better.
I have to like screenshot this. Hold on.
He's so serious. Hey, wait.
I think I got it. I don't think so, but whatever. We'll get it later. Because that's just so cute. Look,
Thank you.
he's so freaking cute.
He's like, you're okay, mom. Don't worry. Thank you. You're so nice. I appreciate you. Okay. You're so sweet. I'm okay. Okay, you get off now. You can lick my hand. Thank you. Good job. Anyways, back to it. Um, so let's get into addressing the stigma.
Yes. So, of course, like we said earlier, emotional support animals are oftentimes misrepresented as service animals, or vice versa, service animals misrepresented as emotional support animals. I feel like that's not talked a lot about
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people just genuinely aren't educated and they go to
Yep.
train a service dog, but they're calling it an emotional support animal because they
Mm-hmm.
don't know psychiatric service dogs exist. So it can
Mm-hmm.
definitely go both ways. I think it's very, very important to get, education out there, create videos like, both me and you do, getting like videos like this podcast out there where we just, explain that emotional support animals are not service animals. Psychiatric service
No.
dogs are not emotional support animals. They're two completely different things. And it's just very important to differentiate between the two.
And like the other thing too is because there's so much like negativity and skepticism around it, I will like admit I don't say Pluto's a psychiatric service dog when people ask me like or like when authorities ask me about that
Yeah,
because I know they're not going to believe me because I look normal, I look fine, or like even going to Disney, like I don't want them to think like I don't need a service dog. And that's the thing that
yeah,
sucks
you don't want
because
like an access issue.
yeah, and that's the thing that sucks because if I didn't have another disability, like I would have so many access issues. But my other disability is that I have I always forget the name. I don't know why. But anyways, I'm deaf from my left ear or my right
The
ear.
unilateral?
Unilateral, there you go. I always forget the name. Unilateral hearing loss. That's what I have. All I know is I'm deaf from one of my ears, and that's how I explain it. But yes, unilateral hearing loss. Um, and so I tell them when I go to Disney, like this is for hearing and da 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 da, and when I get asked those questions, because I know if I say psychiatric, I'm gonna have issues. Like I'm going to have these
Yeah,
issues because I don't look disabled. I don't look like the person that la 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 la. And there's been a lot of people
I
that
agree.
say, oh, this dog's for my ESA because he has anxiety, or I have anxiety. And so like this is why he has to come with me everywhere. And then that's where the stigma happens and whatever. And yes, there are people that don't know, aren't educated because, we're not educated in animals here, and it sucks, but that's the huge issue. And then the bigger issue is people know and don't care. That's a
Yeah.
whole other topic we could probably talk about. Um, but yeah, it's about the visible disabilities are the ones that have, I don't want to say that only have a hard time because that's not right, but they have a hard time because of the fact that these people do fake their ESAs as service dogs.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. It's really, really sad because, you know, there are people that do struggle with anxiety and stuff, and then they get
Yeah.
approached and they have these things, like, memorized in their brain, and what
Hmm.
the thing that they're gonna say, like if somebody says, "Is that a service dog?" and then you say, "Yeah," and then they ask the two questions, you give them the answer, but then you might not have anything like prepared or rehearsed after
Hmm.
that, but then they're coming at you being like, "Well, you look like there's something wrong with you. Um, we don't allow emotional support animals," like it's just tough because ESAs, people
Yeah.
that do take advantage of them, they
Yeah.
do cause a lot of those
And
issues and furthermore causes
and
harm to these handlers.
I had an issue at a restaurant because of ESAs. I had them ask me. So the first time I went, they were so great and so accommodating. I'm not going to say the place. They were so great, so accommodating, so nice. I went with two other service dogs. And they didn't let us in until all three of us were there, and they asked all three of us the questions, which is fine. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
So then, they did that. And the next time I went, they had not the manager, because the manager asked me the first time. It was the hostess. And she was like, okay, is this a service dog for a disability? I said, yeah. And then she's like, okay, what kind of service? I said, hearing alert. And then she's like, okay, does your dog bark? I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, does he alert, like barking to alert? And I was like, I didn't want to say no because what if he barked like by mistake, someone stepped on his tail or something and like his
Yeah.
foot and like whatever, And I was like, you're not allowed to ask me that. And she's like, oh yeah, I just want to know like, what kind, like how he alerts you. And I'm like, you're not supposed to ask me that though. You're only allowed to ask me two questions. And like she was like, well, she was trying to ask me what kind, like what is it for? Like she wanted to know what
Yeah.
my
Oh my
diagnosis
God.
was. And I'm like, just so you're aware, you're only allowed to ask me two questions. These are the two questions. I already answered them. I don't have a right to answer the other questions. I'm like, I will tell you, but I'm not gonna like this isn't okay. You're not allowed to do that. And then I ended up talking to the manager. I told him like I want to talk to your manager. And I spoke to her manager and I said, this isn't okay. Like she's not allowed to ask me these questions. Like you guys have been really great the last time that I came, and this time I'm not okay with the fact that you guys are just expanding these questions. Like it's not okay. I think what
Yeah.
happened was someone said, and here's what happened. Someone said they had a service dog, took the dog in, and the dog kept barking, and they're like, well, my dog's alerting me. And like that's how the whole barking
Oh
thing
my God.
came up. Um, it just it just sucks. It sucks that we have
Yeah.
to deal with these things, but here are the things we got to deal with. But I want to get into the myth versus fact portion of
Oh,
this episode
yeah.
because I love it. So here we go. One myth. Any dog that makes me feel better can be a service dog.
The fact
Fact.
for that one.
Yeah.
The fact for that one is service dogs require specific trained tasks related to a disability.
Yes, to mitigate someone's disability.
Yeah.
Yes. Myth. Psychiatric service dogs aren't real service dogs.
Fact, they are federally recognized under the ADA with the same rights as any other service dog.
Hmm. Yes. Myth. Emotional support dogs, animals, can go anywhere.
Fact, they only have housing protections under the FHA. They cannot go into non-protected services,
Love it.
as
Absolutely love
everybody's
it.
saying.
Yes, they're completely different. So, wrapping it up, our takeaways from this ESAs are for comfort and housing protection. Service dogs are task trained to mitigate someone's disability, and they're fully covered by the ADA. Both of them have value, but they're not interchangeable. And our final message is going to be understanding the difference helps reduce the stigma and supports those who truly rely on their service dogs.
Agree. I 100% agree. And I apologize for that. My neighbor keeps going in and out with some kind of banging thing, and
Oh, I didn't even hear anything.
oh, they were well, I muted it, but they were barking before.
Oh, it's fine. They're doing construction over here. So like there's things being painted, drilled, banging, all kinds of stuff. So you're
Yeah.
good.
People go, "Oh my God,
Anyways,
they're fake because they're
yeah.
barking in your house." I'm like,
Uh,
oh, whatever.
anyways. So, anyways, basically, ESAs and psychiatric service dogs are completely different. Whether the
Yeah.
psychiatric service dog is for anxiety or not, they still are not the same thing, and they're very much different. We'd love to hear you guys send us some messages about your stories. Um,
Yes, we
and we
would.
can hear about that. Again, like we talked about last episode, or the episode before, I don't remember. We want this to be a positive conversation. We want this to be nice. We are not here to further divide the service dog community. We are here to just voice our stories and have a productive, positive interaction with one another,
Yeah.
conversation. Um, we are not here to do anything negative to anybody.
If you do have something negative to say, just keep scrolling. We don't need to hear it. It's everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But we don't want any arguments. We don't want any
No,
fights. This is supposed
no.
to be a healthy discussion.
Mm-hmm.
We want to create a healthy community for
Yes.
us, because that's the problem. Again, I know I mentioned it in a previous episode, but that's the problem with the service dog community is there's two sides against each other,
Mm-hmm.
and they're always
Mm-hmm.
at each other fighting. But we want to be able to listen to both sides and have the
Yeah.
debate discussion
Yep.
respectfully and positively, because
Yep.
again, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yep. And we've been on the negative side of things, and we don't want to be in the negative side of things anymore. We want to create our own
Yep,
positive community within the community, and we welcome anybody that wants to be in our community that's also positive, that's also
absolutely.
going to add positivity and be supportive and build everybody up instead of tearing others down. That's not what we want, and that's not what
Absolutely.
we're about.
And jumping in right there as we end our episode, or this was a really great episode, really deep
Hmm.
episode.
Yeah.
Um, but if you guys have any other topic like requests, or if you have any questions or anything you want us to mention on the podcast or go over, feel free to go to our link tree and you can click the request box and write in your topic request or whatever you want to say, even if it's just a message to us or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
you can write anything in there and we'll either read it on the podcast or go over it in an episode, just whatever you want. This podcast was made for you guys to go over the service dog, all things service dog. So, whatever you want to hear, we're going to do it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Alrighty. So we will see you guys next week. We're going to be doing Finding a Prospect next week. It's going to be a really big episode. Um,
Yes.
if you guys have any tips, send them in to us too, because we'd love to hear them.
Yes. Bye.
Bye, guys.